Our film begins with the landing of a group of pilots in California, and we see the captain, who has experience in flying for 30 years, and now he is a test pilot and works on a program to test combat pilots, which belongs to the U.S. Navy. Those who are working on it because they are unable to achieve its goal, and they know that all the money that he put in the program will continue to finance the pilots project without an increase their number, and they inform him of all those present that he will arrive within an hour. And because the captain is known to him and that he does not give in to failure easily, he decides that he ignores Kane and completes his mission, and asks the team that is with him to prepare him so that he can board the plane that they are working on it in their project, and as soon as he moves by plane, he arrives and sees that he did not disobey his orders, and he goes to the control room and talks to him, and asks him to come down, but he doesn't care and continues his way, and it keeps increasing speeds, somehow breaking the record. At that time, his team rejoices and encourages him, except for Kane, who shows him that he is not happy with what is happening, and this is despite the fact that I insulted him for the success of their experiment, and in order to assure them that their project was successful, he decides to exceed the speed that they wanted to reach. But suddenly the engine explodes and the plane is destroyed because it could not bear all the speed and then we see him in his military uniform, after he was able to escape. And the rescue team comes to take him back to the naval base, and they confront the admirals with what he did because he disobeyed orders and wanted to punish him, and bans him from flying for life, but he does not do this in appreciation of the achievements he made in the history of his work, also because he receives orders from Commander Ace, who informs him that Maverick is assigned a mission and will return to the naval base. When he goes, two leaders meet him and explain his mission to him, which would be the destruction of an illegal uranium enrichment plant, and it was adopted by their enemies on the state borders from two leather mountains, and they know that the factory will operate within 3 weeks. They must destroy it before it works, because it threatens the fate of the entire army. So he gets excited and happy because it is difficult, and he begins to explain to them his plan of destruction. But he is shocked when they know that he is not required to fly in the mission, and that all that is required is that he train a young man from among their best graduates, and that they will choose from them in the end only 6 pilots to carry out the mission. And they show him their picture and he becomes one of them, and this son of Jaws remains the closest friend, and he who died 30 years ago in a mission they were in with each other, and he feels hesitant at the time because he thinks of his friend, but they know him that the mission is difficult, especially since there are very advanced radars and attack planes. The factory is protected from any attack on it. They need to get the job done as quickly as possible, and that's why they chose him. And they assure him that he is not allowed to disobey any orders. Then Maverick meets the students and gets to know them, and he sees them trying to blend into each other in groups. He also sees the rivalry between them, and as soon as he sees Maverick Rooster standing in the middle of them, watching him from afar, and he avoids letting him see him, he is very upset when he thinks of the 6th day that Abu Jawas died, and what did he make a great effort to do anything and save him, but he did not know, and then Commander Bates arranges a meeting for them. And he offers them that he is one of the smartest pilots who will train them for their mission. And he talks to them about his achievements over the past 30 years, and what they will learn from him they will never be able to learn from anyone else. And at this time he starts talking to them, and he asks them about the book that contains all the rules of aviation, so they tell him that they are keeping it well, and then he grabs the book and throws it in front of them in the trash, and he tells them that their enemy must also know everything that is in the book, and that they will not be able to defeat him except with their limitless skills and their mind. And he asks them to start there first, ride their planes, and show him their skills in the air, and he goes to call Rooster when he sees him going to board the plane and is surprised by his reaction and his ridiculous treatment of him, and it remains clear that he is upset with him because he thinks that he is the reason for his father's death. Gesticulate. Bidlash opportunity to talk to him and walk, and then they start the first training that makes them fight each other with their planes, and he decides to face them himself, and he is a team alone, meaning their entire team, and it imposes on them that whoever loses will be punished with difficult exercises, and he starts fighting the first group of them, and he can win. After that he enters the second group and wins over them, as well as the third group, and punishes them all. and Rooster is very upset with him and decides to challenge him again. But he can't get over it, and he will be punished with push-ups for the second time. After he finishes it, Captain Bates talks to him and tells him that he doesn't agree with the way he's training them, because it is very dangerous for them in their planes, so he tells him that they should train in a different way because they don't know what they can face from the enemy. On the second day, Maverick gathers the team and shows them a model of the enemy base in the shape of the radars they have, which can detect any plane close to the place, fire on it and attack it before it reaches it. And he reassures them that he will teach them how to fly at a very low altitude so that they can escape from the radars, and he assures them that they should take care of the time, because any delay will be against them as if they did not do anything. And then he takes them on planes to train them to fly at a very low level, and all of them fail, except for Rooster, who succeeds in flying at this level, but it is 1 minute late, which is not true, because this is how the enemy currents know that they are able to do it, and after they finish, he sits down to discuss with them the mistakes they made, and they have advice and they fight with. One of the trainees on his team provokes him and talks about his father as a monster, and he tries to guide them and separate them. This makes him very upset because he has little time left and his team has many differences, and this is how they will never succeed in the mission. At this time, Commander Ace, who was nominated for the mission, sends him a message, and he asks him to come to meet him. And the second day he goes to him and greets him, and it turns out that Ace is not sick because he suffers from cancer in the throat, and he communicates with people by typing on his computer, and he asks about training in the team. They say that he is upset because until now he does not know how to unite them and make them love each other, and they fear each other. He would also be afraid to choose Rooster from among the team that will carry out the task, because he can lose him as he lost his father. At the same time, if he excludes him, he will oppress him. So Kais advises him to forget past, and he chooses him from the team, and they encourage him to say that he has completed the task. And that's why he drove it, and he chose it, so he thanks him and walks away. After that, he decides to take the team of trainees and take them to a trip on an island in order to bring them closer together and make them feel the spirit of the team, and he will be watching them from afar while they are playing, and he is happy that he succeeded in this, and after they return again to the base to complete their training when he learns from his commander that the opening of the factory remains after a week only one thing, and that they presented the date, and the commander knew that there was only 1 week ahead of them, and they were ready for their difficult mission, and that they had to intensify their training. So he would take his team to train them on what they would do in the mission, and take it and set the time. But one of the team gets tired due to the atmospheric pressure and loses consciousness, and when they see him, he gets close to him and goes to him with his plane. And he appreciates that he surpasses and completes it, but at the same time, another of their planes crashes, and it's about to hit the ground and explode, and this time, he can't catch up, so he asks them to get out of it quickly and save themselves, and they all fail to train. This makes me very angry, because there is not much time left, and he talks to Rooster alone, and blame him for the way he treated him, and he understood a lot wrong. But the leader interrupts their speech, who informs Maverick that Ace is dead, and the second day they go to attend the funeral and burial ceremony. Then, Commander Cyclone takes advantage of the death of East, who was Maverick's candidate for the mission, and he decides to exempt him from it and complete it himself. This is because he didn't like having a Maverick from the start, and all the time he criticized his training method and his reckless behavior. And the commander sits down with the trainees to make a plan for them new to walk on, and he knows them the distance and height, also the time they will take to implement the task, and he finds that the team is in objection and they are never convinced of his plan. This is because its failure rate is high. This is because they are limited to more than 4 minutes. This means that many of them may die and not be able to return, but suddenly they are on the radar. There is a plane flying in their airspace, and they are surprised that he is the one who is trained to carry out the task in his own way for the last time, and he tells them that he will finish it in just 2 minutes and 15 years. And he sets time for himself,
and it starts flying at a low altitude and destroys the target that you are doing exactly like it.
In a simulation way. Then it increases its height and speed. He will be able to succeed in the specified time and prove to them that if they carry out all the instructions, they will be able to succeed easily in the same way he did. And all the students remain impressed with him. They are optimistic about the success of the mission, and at that time, the commander changes his mind and decides to let him complete the mission and
also leads the team with his pilot. He rejoices in his decision and chooses the team
with which he will carry out the mission, and it will be among them who choose the most difficult task. It is that he destroys the factory, throws missiles and missiles at them, and reads, finally,
it will be re-implemented and they will move with 5 planes. And he will be the leader, and
they will fly at a very low altitude, so that the radars will not see them.
And each one of them knows his role in the mission, and they move until they
reach the enemy's square in an area between the 2 mountains, and destroy their target with missiles, and they blow up the factory, and then they start going out at full speed, but then the radar sees them and they are attacked with missiles, and a missile comes from them in the plane of his, which is being destroyed completely, and the leader will see all that is happening, and he thinks he died when his plane was destroyed by missiles, and he asks the rest of the pilots to return quickly. At this time, he will descend on the ground, overtake him, and find
himself alone, and the enemy planes will locate him and attack him in order to kill him. But when Rooster sees him, he decides to disobey orders, and does not turn back and leave him, and hits the enemy plane with missiles and blows them up to protect himself. But his plane is also destroyed and he goes down to the ground together, and they both thank each other, because each one of them was trying to protect the other. The reason he didn't walk quickly was that he found a late Rooster and didn't want to walk without him, and they both start looking for a way to get out safely. And what is in front of them is that they steal a plane from the enemy streams and
return with it, and they help each other to the extent that they can reach it. But they encounter a problem before they fly it, that it is very old and different from their planes. Despite this, they can deal with it and move quickly. Suddenly, they meet 2 enemy planes behind them and attack them, believing that he can get rid of them even though his plane is older than them, and he can actually get rid of one and sign it, so you flop in the mountain and crash. As for the second plane, it stays behind them for a long time, until they succeed in getting rid of it too, and they feel victory and joy, and they are assured that they will be able to return safely. But in this moment, a new plane blooms in front of them, and they cannot fight it, because all the bombs they have will be finished. The only solution remains that they try to distance themselves from it and avoid it, and when they feel that they will die from the missiles that hit them, they decide to open the door of the plane, and they step away from it before it explodes with them. But even this is not opened because the plane is of an old model, and before they surrender to death in moments, one of their team comes with his plane and picks them up from the enemy plane behind them and destroys it with the ammunition he has, and the last problem remains that landing will be difficult, because the calf of the plane was broken when they were running away with it. But he appreciates his experience that he descends safely, and all the people at the naval base will be waiting for their return, and they receive them with joy.
And he thanks each other. And then their relationship improves very much after this mission, and they work together.